Welcome to the Soul School podcast. Soul School is the spiritual education you never received. From how to find your life purpose to deepening your sense of unshakable happiness, Soul School is centered on the idea that we're all souls on a journey to learn our lessons, and that connecting into the deepest manifestation of our soul's expression is our first and primary goal. I'm Kevin Kaiser, and I'm here with my beautiful and wonderful co-host, Laura Coe. Laura, how's it going?
Amazing. Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Good, good. So, new show, new world, new life. We're diving into the shallow end of the pool today, all about life purpose. And it's actually the deep end of the pool. We're talking about what is life's purpose? Do I have a life purpose? If I have a purpose, how the heck do I find it? And so, what I wanted to do is start with really the explorations that you and I have had over the past, especially 10 years, 15 years, because you've talked to a lot of people, from your Art of Authenticity show around purpose. This is the number one thing people ask. So what is purpose? Do we have a life purpose? What do you think?
Well, short answer, yes, I do. I think we do. I think this is a topic that is so misunderstood, which is why it causes so much friction. And it did for me. And I know, having worked with clients privately for a decade that are, high achieving people who have put a lot of time and energy into having a life that matters to them, right? And their capacity is high. So when they're coming up short and saying, why didn't this work? Right? It's very interesting. When people are looking inside and asking, what is it that I'd like to do with my life? And they're working for decades, perhaps, on something, and it objectively looks pretty good. Why is it that there isn't this exceptional feeling internally where you say, yes, I feel amazing, right?
Right.
And what I have learned over this exploration within myself and working with people and talking to literally hundreds, if not thousands of people at this point, around this question of purpose, it's that we're misguided in what we think it means. And so I'll start with what I thought it means, and then I'll tell you what I believe it means today. What I think people often think is my purpose is, first of all, my career. It's something within my life that is a representation of myself that is in my career, right? It's a 3D manifestation. And so I have to look within myself and then go achieve something that feels like it reflects back a sense of self. And so the challenge with that is we then work really, 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 really hard over perhaps years, if not decades, waiting for a feeling, right? Because why are people doing it? They're doing it because they want to feel good. They want to have a feeling of like, like this is it. This feels good, right? So when I get there, I will fill in the blank, happy, fulfilled, at ease. Life will take on this like, just going down the river feeling, right? And it doesn't happen.
Or if it does, it doesn't last.
Exactly. So one of two things happens. You climb the top of the mountain and you realize, like you can't stay there. And so life is always in motion. So it doesn't, there's no like holding on to, right? Like I sold a company and then the sale was over and I had to get back to work, right? Like you don't sit in a moment, right? Moments are always moving. So even when you have successful moments, they're fleeting. But also just the meaning of it isn't quite right. So I was that. I sold a company. I went in to study authenticity. I realized it's something that you're always navigating, right? And then I went into the Akashic realm. And what I learned there was like, oh, we're so off. So what I believe it means today is when I think about what it is that is true for me, I'm consulting myself on a soul level. What have I come into this lifetime to do? Right? I've had many, many lives, I believe. And so in this lifetime, I've come here with an intention, a purpose on a soul level. I don't know what it is. I feel a weird inkling towards things, but I have a hard time putting vocabulary to it. And then it's not always a 3D career, right?
Right.
And so when you get an Akashic record reading, or you go in the Akashic realm, you get to learn what it was that your soul wanted to do in this particular life. And it perhaps is working on a relationship. It is perhaps working out karma. It is perhaps it's a career, right? For me, it happens to be in this life, but it's not about waiting for the moment that the flower blooms, right? So we plant
Yeah.
the seed, the flower grows, it blooms. It's about feeling connected to one's truth, feeling connected within oneself in all moments, from morning till night. And it happens to sometimes have the outcome of something that is the manifestation of those truths, right, in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a feeling within ourselves. So the answer to purpose is that I'm living and breathing the existence of myself in all moments at all time, all day, as often as I can, right? My brain hijacks it all the time, and I get lost in the past or the present or the future. But that's what I believe purpose is the connection into oneself, the deepest self, the authentic self, if you will, the essential self, the soul self, and living in that. And that's where you find flow state. That's where you find
Mm.
all the things that bring happiness. That's where happiness is right this second. And so is purpose.
Yeah. There's so much to unpack there. My brain is kind of melting,
Sorry.
but I agree with you 100%. And the way I think of it, so I want to talk about purpose from my perspective for a minute, and then I want to get into the Akashic field for those that aren't familiar with what you're talking about. I think of like, we're not a noun. I think of us like a verb. And, it's like who I am is my purpose. Who I am is why I am here. My only problem is I don't know who I am. Like, you can't try to be yourself. You can only be yourself. It's just we block who we are, like our natural expression, with I should be this, I should be that. Here's what culture tells me. It's like the example I used with somebody recently is it's like a cheetah. A cheetah is cheetahing. Like, it's just being itself. It doesn't lay around thinking about how to try to be anything else like we do. And so it really is just, like you said, flow state feels like a really important thing of like, who am I really? And why don't I do, well, how come I'm not myself? Well, I either don't know who I am, or I don't feel like I'm allowed to be myself.
That's
right. I'll be rejected, or it's going to come off weird, or, I won't make enough money. Like all of these kinds of things that we've been told, this is what life is. But, it's simply being yourself. And we just all suffer from this chronic case of mistaken identity. From my perspective. So okay. So let me just recap that. Like, purpose is just simply being yourself.
Yeah.
How we would both say it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the cheetah, it's so funny you said that, because the Akashic records, right? The energetic space that holds your soul's history. I appreciate you reminding me that some people don't know. I'm taking for granted that at this point I've said it so many times, but it's the energetic space that holds all of our soul's histories, everything we've ever done in all of our lifetimes. And I wrote, as you know, Kevin, these books from the Akashic realm, channeling them, and the book on self-love, right? It was a lion. And self-love from this perspective is this idea that a lion just sits in a field and is a lion, right? It doesn't need to have another experience. It knows its nature is a lion. And children, they sit in to knock that out. Children sit in the ability to be themselves. You know what? Let me just, children don't have to worry about their natural state of being, right? They are just being. And that's what we enjoy about being around children. And we enjoy being in nature because nature is just essence. It's just being, right? But as adults, because of the way culture is and the education that we've been exposed to, we, as you're saying, right, we get stuck in these thought loops of who we think we are, what it is to be alive, how to conform. Also, it's just like an endless list, truly, right? And we believe those things to be true about ourselves, and we stop knowing. We don't even know how, Kevin, like to sit in our own experience without thoughts interrupting the beingness of being human, right?
Yeah.
And we spend a lot of time thinking, and thinking is not so fun.
It is not fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it creates a prison. I mean, it really does, who I think I am, then who I think you think I am. And we think it's this like monolithic kind of thing when it's the least reliable thing in the world is my personality or my mind. Like it's constantly changing. And I had this realization many years ago that I have as many versions of myself as I have relationships in my life, as I have like opportunities and circumstances in my life, because I remember I would literally feel like a different person in a conference room versus like just hanging out with my daughter.
Yeah.
And like, wow, what is that? Like
Yeah.
who I think I am, and more importantly, who I think others think I am. It's just this shape-shifting thing. And, what you said at the very beginning about our soul, our essential self, it's like, what remains when you strip away all of the beliefs, all of the conditioning, all of the hurt from the past that you identify with? Like, what remains when you strip all of that away?
Yeah. You're reminding me of the book. Well, so there's the Four Agreements book with, Riaz, and if you haven't read that one, run. It's one of the best. But he also does the mastery of self. And in there, he talks about removing the masks, right? And so it's not a problem that I put on a mask for my son. It's a problem that I don't know that I put on the mask, and I don't know the difference, right? So of course I'm going to show up for my kid different than I'm going to show up for my partner or work. Like we do need to live in culture, right? And it is important to remain clear that the constructs of being human are not a problem. They're not something to overcome. They're not something to get past, but that I know the difference, and I can remove these masks and know that there is this essential nature that lives underneath it. And my purpose in life is to be that. And from there, I can heal relationships. And from there, I can grow and spiritually evolve. And from there, I can, potentially birth something magical from my soul into the world that feels truly profoundly true for me, right? For me, that's what purpose is. It's like birth from the deepest sense of truth within yourself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then the mind and then your life become a vehicle for that. It's like we were talking, I think it was about a week ago, Descartes, I think, therefore I am. And you and I were talking about the flip side of that, of no, well, in reality, the opposite is true. I am, therefore I think.
That's right.
So it's like being deeply, deeply connected to who you really are beyond all of the stories, beyond all of those things. And like you said, then you can make use of the mask. You can actually play with different masks without gluing them to your face with cosmic super glue. You know what I mean? It's like you can be who you are and play in this life. It's like, I know people use the Matrix as an analogy a lot, but it really is like lucid dreaming or awakening in the Matrix, but playing in it, understanding that you can make use of all of the masks, all of the tools, all of the things, but you're none of those things. But you can play with them and you can master them. That's really what this is about. I think that's what all the spiritual traditions are about, really. It's, in reality, there's no such thing as a person. but you need to play a person in this life in order to really do anything.
That's right. I mean, it's such a, so again, like I've built my life around the Akashic realm now. So you're going to hear me talk about it a lot, because I think the perspective has woken me up to truths, and it resonates deeply, although I love a lot of different bodies of work. But like this sense of, so the number one thing people ask me is, what's my purpose? Why am I here? Like, I don't know, am I on the right path? Right? Like everybody wants to answer that. What do I need to heal, or what do I need to do to get to that? Right? I feel like I'm running out of time, right? There's this anxiety around it. And I tell them, before an Akashic record reading, it's not about that. It's not about getting it right. And it's not about like finding this singular thing, but there is also a stripping back of the identity of self as just a human being to this deeper sensation within, right? Because what I'm struck by, Kevin, is people are asking that question because there's something within themselves as they walk through their life where they know there's something else, there's something deeper, there's something more, and they can't put their finger on it, right? Like, what is that sensation? And it's like a midlife crisis, a midlife awakening, or like an intuition, or like, or a feeling of stuckness, right? We all have had that. And so I think that the biggest challenge of being human is that we don't train kids how to remain in contact with the beingness of themselves. We teach them the opposite, to come up into their heads and spend all of their time in the brain space, the thinking self. And so we don't know how to connect into those feelings, those senses of like, what is that? And then I'm not sure we're supposed to fully know. I think we get embodied and we don't, remember why we're here exactly. Right. And so Akashic record readings help you reconnect to that. They give the language for it, but they give you a little bit, right? And you're kind of living your life like with this little GPS of sensation of like, we have to learn to trust that. We have to learn how to like, maybe sometimes it's not in language or put language to it, but it's very subtle and nuanced. And so I do think it's really, really, really challenging to not feel that frustration or not feel that lost sense because like I said, of culture, because the lack of language around it, because it's so subtle and nuanced. But I think almost everybody has that or will have that at some point in their life, because I do think that's what we're here to do, is to listen to that and to build our life around it, not the opposite.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the very thing that drives us forward, right? Like you said earlier, it's the sense of happiness, the sense of like, how does this, because nobody really wants to be a billionaire. They want how being a billionaire makes them feel.
That's right.
Right. So it's makes me feel safe and, important, all of these kinds of things. But what is the thing that is driving you toward trying to get that feeling?
That's
right. And
why
I
don't you
think,
believe you can have it now, Kevin?
exactly. Yeah. Because we all know you can have all the things, all the stuff, and you're still not happy. We just think that we're the exception to that rule. So we want to find out for ourselves. Because I think, well, I'm going to be the exception to that rule, but you never are.
Yeah.
Because you can never find what you're looking for in any of those things. But you have to discover that for yourself. You can't just read a book. Like, you really do have to take that journey, and ultimately you have to become disillusioned with life. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's great wisdom in disillusionment. And you and I have talked about this, how disillusionment is just becoming de-illusioned. Like, you no longer fall for the trick anymore. You see it for what it is. And then that's the moment freedom really begins.
Yeah. The knowing that the thing I'm seeking outside of myself to fill the void within myself will never fill the void in myself. And it really, quite honestly, it's like a cancer. It just creates more and more and more, right? And that's where an addictive mindset comes from, whether it's work or a substance or love or whatever it is that you're grasping and grasping and grasping for to fill this
Mhm.
endless nagging of what am I doing? Why am I here? Why am I not happy? Or okay, maybe I just need more stuff or more money or a different partner or more kids or a bigger house or like the list, right? It's endless, more love, more affection, more time, right? Like
Yeah,
it just
yeah.
goes on and it doesn't work. And it's like, it's kind of comical, right? Because we all know like happiness is within and like we've heard it. It's just so damn hard to do, particularly as we're faced with the cultural norms that just constantly suggest that it is in fact outside and you will get there. And
Right.
it's your own process and you have to have your breakdown, break free moment. So Kevin, what was your like moment where you really said, it's not here?
Yeah. Well, at first it all added up kind of like compound interest. And it was like little things, little things, little things. And then um, I did have a kind of experience that I remember I was laying in bed and I just had this overwhelming sense of, I don't know if you would call it despair, but it was dark clarity is the best way I can describe it. It was like a real true dark night of the soul, but it
Uh-huh.
brought this hyper clarity that, oh my gosh, I cannot live with myself.
Mm.
And um, later, I think maybe about a year or two later, I would read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And his story was very similar to my story, where I realized, oh my gosh, I cannot live with myself. And I noticed that there was like this separation, that there was like this part of me that was looking at my life.
Mm.
That was the only way I can describe it is it's like the sky versus the clouds, kind of a classic like awakening to who you really are. And I just saw the complete emptiness of all of the things that I'd spent so many years just pursuing,
Mm.
you know. Um, and it was like a moment of letting go.
Mhm.
And I guess it
Yeah.
was a midlife crisis. It was just,
Yeah.
it reminded me when you were talking of something Vincent Felitti said. He's an addiction expert. He said, it's impossible to get enough of something that almost works.
Right.
And I've worked with a lot of addicts over the years, and people who have deep trauma, and people that try to fill up their pain with more money, like all the things. And it's impossible to get enough of something that almost works. And I just had this moment of clarity. It's like I'm trying to fill up life with things that almost work.
Mhm.
And what am I looking for? I'm just looking for myself. And then
Yeah.
that started me on this long, long journey that I'm still on of exploration.
Yeah. No, it's when you had that one phrase you said, right? I'm aware that I can't live like this. In that idea is the freedom because there's
Yeah.
not two Kevins. And when we start to recognize the I that I'm identifying with is not the I that is the true I, and that the observer I is the actual I, right? You've got these two versions. There's I can't live with myself. Well, who's the I who can't live with which self, right? And
Yeah.
once you start to break that down, first of all, it's going to cause like a psychological melt because it's like, wait, who am I?
Who am
But
I?
that's where you get your freedom ticket, right? It's not
Yeah.
in more stuff. It's in the recognition that I've been thinking about myself, who I am, my identity, everything through the wrong sense of self, right? And
Mm.
it just gave me full body goosebumps when you said that, right? Because it's like, it really is truly the biggest mystery of life. And it gives you nothing to hold on to because that other I, the awareness I, that where is it? It doesn't exist. I can't point
Yeah.
to it. So it's like this existential crisis of sorts to lean into it because what the hell is that? And it's this death of my own sense of self, but it is truly the rebirth into this freedom to actually live, to stop suffering, right?
Yeah.
And the second thing you said around happiness, I mean, I'm like borderline obsessed. I mean, I'm just borderline obsessed, but we think happiness is a state of like existence, like, and we equate it to pleasure. And so the almost enough thing you're saying, right? The addictions or whatever, the external gratifications, they last for a little moment in time or even a longer moment in time, but they're temporary. And
Yeah.
we just keep thinking that somehow we can elongate it or keep it going. And it's like the true definition of happiness, if you look at all of philosophy in all traditions, is this internal one. It is not gratification and pleasure on the outside. And it's the truest way to suffer, is to believe that happiness is that. So that's the other big one for me, was the recognition that pleasure and contentment are not the same thing. Pleasure is
Right.
fleeting and momentary and wonderful. There's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
But if you think that's going to fix the void in you, you're going to have a lot of struggle eventually, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And ultimately, like Chuang Tzu said 2,500 years ago, happiness is the absence of the pursuit of happiness.
That's right.
So it's like that still point of the circle. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we all know this, like you said earlier, it's intuitive. We know it. It's part of our mythology as a species, right? We just know that you cannot, there's nothing outside of you that will ultimately make you happy. And that's the journey. It really is.
Yeah. And, what I'm excited to explore in this podcast is just, though, this breakthrough, right? Because while we say all this and can wax and wane poetically about it and talk philosophically about it, the reality for myself and for everybody I know, including you who's gone through it, right? And we're sidebarring about it in private conversations, is this shit hurts. Like, it is painful to go through. And I mean, how many times have I called you, Kevin, and in like borderline crisis mode? It's like, as these identifications of self stop working, and you awaken to the awareness self, right? The true self. There's a resistance and a pain in letting go of this idea of who you've built up as yourself, right? And it comes in so many shapes and forms, these existential crises, these holdings of yourself that you don't want to release. And there's shame to it too, right? Like, why am I struggling so much in my spiritual journey, right? Like, back to this authenticity idea, right? Like, I sort of thought, I should become authentic, and then I'm talking about it, and I should stay authentic. And what are people going to think about me if I'm not always authentic? And it's like, oh my God, right? Like, spirituality comes in these massive waves and these huge dips, and the dips are hard to talk about. So I'm excited to have those conversations too, and sort of tell people a little more about the darker side of this journey, because I think it's really real. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I can't wait to get into those. I mean, we have a long, long, long list of things, ideas and topics and questions we want to explore. And we're going to get our hands dirty.
Yeah.
Because that's what the journey's about. So I'm
Kevin,
excited.
if you have to share as we part with the audience today about purpose, do you feel that there is, a piece of advice or a quote or a perspective you can share if people are like new to this idea and they're just getting started with rethinking purpose in a new framework? Is there a way you can summarize this? A starting point, perhaps?
Yeah. For me, it's most helpful it's two things. The first thing is something that Pierre Teilhard de Chardin said a long time ago. He said, we are not human beings that are enjoying spiritual experiences. Instead, we're spiritual beings that are enjoying a human experience. And so that's where I start. I am more than just who I think I am, right? I am this essential self. I'm this essential energy that is living a human life. Okay. That's number one. Number two is My purpose is simply to be myself fully, fearlessly, authentically. And that's the big question. Who am I?
Mm-hmm.
And think of purpose that way. And that's the starting point to freeing yourself from culture's definitions of you. Because everybody will have ideas around who they think you should be. And being yourself is being free of all of those ideas. So,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
And being yourself is, back to your point about the animal, is just being. Right?
Yeah,
And
it's a
try
verb.
that. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for listening to this week's episode of the Soul School. I'm Laura Coe, and I'm here with Kevin, and we look forward to future conversations coming forward.
Love it. Peace, friends. We'll see you next time.